Dungeon Doom
We're
Hands.
streaming.
Let's talk
I think
lore.
so.
A
We are
podcast.
recording. I'm Spencer. This is Chris. Where are you here? And
Who are you? I have no idea.
Chris, yeah, what are we talking about tonight?
Today we're talking about one of your favorite things is random tables, but more specifically your random tables with NPCs or random tables in the middle of the game, and how do you prepare for them?
So one of the things that I was experiencing as a DM was that I was prepared for my sessions, and I would over prepare sometimes, under prepare, whatever. But one of the things that caught me off guard was sometimes, as always, the players don't do what they don't they don't follow the linear path that you've made,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a table of some sort needs to be rolled, or a random happening needs to come to fruition, and I during the gameplay I would say, oh, I wouldn't actually say anything. I think I was being a bad DM at that point, but I wouldn't have anything to do, so I would scrounge around, quickly try to figure something out, and more than often I would just randomly make it up. But as we were progressing through the gameplay, I found that having these random tables, whether you make each line, whether you make a table of 1 to 10, 1 to 8, 1 to 4, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, um, I found that having those random tables adds a different element to the game. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you was, how do you like prepare? I guess what the reason why I brought this up was, how do you prepare as a dungeon master to have these tables? Like,
Well,
what is it that you do?
so I think it really depends on what kind of table you're looking for. So, like when you just ran in Tricard, where we were going through the city and you had hundreds upon hundreds, I think 4 or 5 D100 tables of random things that could happen in the city. And
Right.
those are tables that you got online or accumulated from somewhere, but something like that is a truly random thing that you're looking to find. Um, then there's other tables of encounters, or like encounters on the trail. For example, in I Got Tomb Hand and Skulls of Power, the party is going through some mountains, and like tailoring your tables to what you're wanting it for. So for the mountains, I don't want a truly completely random environment of anyone upon anything can show up. So I made a specific table for who I thought would be most likely to be wandering through the mountains and um, have a relevance to the story to keep the story moving along. But I think it might just be the way I DM. I always throw an extra element of randomness on top of that.
So you DM your or you prepare your tables sort of, so you have your storyline and you
Mm-hmm.
add random tables that will like, no matter what you roll, will help you progress, sort of.
I think the best way I think about it, or I can explain how I think about it, is as I'm developing the session, or the for this example we're talking about, the
Right.
mountains, I'd have different little blocks of regions of, for coming into the mountains, I wanted to have a little entrance block. That was where the purple worm area was. And I wanted to have a transitional area, and that was where you guys discovered the giants and the lava tunnel. And then I wanted that to transition into a really random weird place. And so each one of those I had, there's a random table that I developed for the entire mountain set, would have various people from the local factions or type of encounters, or unique creatures in the region. And so for each one of those, I had you guys roll on the table to develop them. So I would fine tune like the random encounters for where you're going to be using them. So for like each element or each block in the story that you're progressing, I have a different little, not necessarily different, but scaled back version of one massive random table.
Right. And then the so the way that I did it was we're having a technical difficulty. Here we go. The way that I did it was similar to you. I would I knew where there was an A and there's a B. Like I want you to get from
Mm-hmm.
A to B. I would instead of having tables, because the reason why I wanted to ask was because a lot of people use tables, and you can have an NPC table, a random item table, a random event table, a random whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I found that a little bit overwhelming to have in front of you, especially when you're trying to like live gameplay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like,
you
even
know,
if you're at a table in front of everyone, oftentimes we don't have that much time throughout the week to all get together and sit down and play. So you want everything to be smooth, not have to run around, grab all your books.
right. And I thought one of the things that I felt like was helpful was I had a random like in the forest and especially on the water, the open
Mm-hmm.
water, Act 5. Subscribers, roll high and subscribe. You can find our open water campaign. It's like a 9 segment episode act of our homebrew campaign that we're creating on YouTube. But when I was creating this thing, I decided, okay, instead of having like random tables, and I had my random tables for NPCs and stuff, but instead of having random tables, I would create a map with like, okay, there's going to be this batch of open water, and let me rephrase. The map I had, or restart. The map I had was north, south, east, west, and the island that you guys were trying to get to was, let's say, west over here. And it was a circular map, so it was cut up into pies. So the further you got out, there's another layer. Each one
Mm-hmm.
of those layers, and I numbered them and lettered them. So as a DM, in the way I prepared, I created a whole bunch of. I logged online, took a bunch of random events you could have on open water. I was like, okay, there's going to be an island here, and island here. I'll figure those islands out later. But as you traveled, the direction that you went in as a player would determine what random event you had. So you guys were running away from something. It wasn't the Kraken. It was something else, and you guys decided to go south because I think you were trying to get to land or whatever. And it turned out that like a hurricane came. Like that was the
No,
random. That
it
was the
wasn't a
random.
hurricane. It was the whale.
Oh, the whale. Yeah, the random whale too. Yeah.
We were a day away from getting to shore, finally evading the Kraken when a whale came and threw us the opposite direction in 3 days.
Right. I mean, it was hilarious,
It
but
was perfect.
I think that like your tables don't necessarily have to be tables. Is all I'm saying. The
Well, yeah.
idea of the table, the principle of the table, should be something that um, I think everyone should follow, and like the randomness of it. But you can,
Mm-hmm.
as a DM, sort of plot it out on a map, and as the players go left or right, or up or down, or they want to go through the door or up, climb the ladder, or whatever it is. Especially when you're in an open world campaign like we're doing, the random aspect of those tables sort of comes into place. I know the tables, and you know what? If it gets boring, you can sort of change it as you are God. DMs are gods. Um,
You are
but
the god.
I think that like the tables as a whole, I don't know. I don't know if you need every single one of them, but I do still find myself when I use my way of doing it, I do find myself stopping and needing to look something up or find something that I need. And my question to you was, what do you think? What do you think the tables that you should have in front of you as a DM? Like, let's say that there are three. You can't
Right.
have. I don't think you can have like more than three. Maybe more. Maybe less.
I the baseline from everything that you're explaining to me is that added element of randomness into your game to whatever's happening. Um, so your table doesn't have to be large; it can be small. But I think I the last two sessions I only have one real table, my encounter table, and that's all kinds of encounters in there. Um, but that's just the way I love to run my randomness. You don't need a encounter table to add bits of randomness into it. I think for me, having all of that planned out ahead of time is easier and more anxiety relieving to know that I can roll a die, look on here, and I have something already completely planned out.
Right.
But you, I wouldn't say you need a table to do that or to have something. You can plan a full session out with no randomness planned in there, and just by the players playing, they're going to add random, who knows what in there. Just
True.
like this, the simple encounter that you guys had this last game, you met a couple people who your character knew wandering aimlessly through the mountains, and in my head, and with the table that you happen to be, I was like, oh, some friendly people that you would probably know are going to be here, so this will probably be a quick interaction. You'll say hello, send them on their way, and they'll give you some directions or something. I had no idea it would turn into a 20-minute interrogation torture session, and in the end, all three Hall of Fame baseball players were no longer with you in the campaign.
Yeah, Mark McGuire. Um, yeah. So okay, I think. How would I do the takeaway from this table conversation? Because there are so many
It
different tables, and we're going to come back to the tables at another
find
at another
I,
Let's Talk
I
Dueling.
all I would say is find whatever tables um, help make it easier for you to run the session. Even if you have a book of 10 books right there, but you know where all the tables that you want to use are. Oftentimes I'll have 3 or 4 books, but I'll have my notes with the book and the page number of what table I want. So I
Yeah.
don't have to have them all open, and I'll go flip through and find that one and make it easy.
Chris,
But
your
finding
your video. I don't want to cut you off, but your video camera. I think it might have been something I did. Um, is cutting your face off, and everyone needs to see your beautiful face. Oh, look at that guy! Look at that guy. Okay, go back to what we were talking about. Tables. Go. Pretend like I didn't
so
even say anything.
um,
We should do one where it's half my face, half your face. But get
no, absolutely not. That's terrible.
and you roll. You
But
roll for who? Okay.
you said what tables should you have? I'd say any amount of tables that you need to make the game easier for you to run.
Yes.
I personally like one big table that it's all of my prep is building that encounter table. Or most of my prep is building that encounter table because
Wow.
the minute to minute interaction in the game is, especially the way that we play, is a lot of improv, is a lot of just dialogue communication, and there's not much more than that table, maybe an information sheet, but that's just the history, the background, the plot that I have going along. I
True.
like one table, but my table's a mashup of like three, and each number on there has like a 2 or 3 nested tables within it.
I think you and I are similar in the sense that we like to have one like table.
Like one
Um,
place to go to for random things.
right. And I feel like that random table, no matter what you pick, because you're going to still the way I do it is I just like the map I was telling you about. I have A B C D and then I have 1, 2, 3, and then I have probably A, B, C, D again. Um, but they're all, no matter what you do, going to lead somewhere. To hopefully to, sometimes it'll
Yeah.
split out, but lead to that point. And I think the randomness of the table, bringing that to the group, gives the group a little bit more power, and um, I think that is the player engagement aspect of the table. And if you're doing it streaming online like we play versus on the table, I feel like online it detracts a little bit from that interaction, from that player engagement. But if you do it correctly online, it's still the same. And I just feel like that, you're going to roll to see where you go. And I try to do that, and I try to tell everyone, okay, now we've we've resolved the situation with the storm, and in the way that I describe it, this, the you get past the rain falling on you lightens up to a drizzle, and the sun breaks out from the skies, and the water's calm, and now you are, let's roll random uh, a random like weather, or a random encounter, or a random
Mm.
puzzle. And I usually try to do it when I make my maps, not to get too caught up on my map, because I eventually have to give the map up. But the maps always have like your puzzles, your traps, your encounters, and then your like weather or your environment.
Environmental. Yeah.
And then I roll a d4, and
Hmm.
that's what you get. And I think like, so those four things I just said, maybe instead I said three, but maybe those four things are all I need.
Hmm.
But that's in an open water thing. So like, if you're in a small little cave or a town,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
You can still have I say keep your environmental thing for sure, because that adds.
Well, and it also depends on if you're trying to tell a story, if you're just open
Right.
to just completely randomness happening. Then get that D100 table of random encounters and see some random fairies pop up in the Elemental Plane of Fire. Who
Yeah.
knows?
I guess, would you say, to sum up the table? Oh, my favorite table was, I asked everyone in my group. I asked all the players, give me your favorite video game, the favorite uh, episode of Game of Thrones, and then like a couple sci-fi movies, and you guys
Hmm.
all responded to that. I have them on
Hmm.
my cheat sheet somewhere. And if I really need to spice things up, and I as a dungeon master am getting bored, I will randomly say there's a vortex, and that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So like, you might find yourself, just like we were fighting the tank in Metal Gear Solid, just
Hmm.
like we were fighting Bowser
So
from
Mario.
Mario N64. Um, that's my thing. But I think, what do you think the summary here should be? For
Find
DM for tables.
don't I think the gist is don't let your tables make things more complicated. Let randomness be something that is easier to implement into your game. If you have a table, figure out what those each of those encounters might look like before you sit down to roll on it. If you're picking which table to do and you read through everything, imagine what each one of those might be. Or if you're building your own table, each bit of your prep of building those encounters is already solved in that table as you build it. So let your table, however many you have, make the game easier to run for you instead of more challenging.
I always love how you sum up the Let's Talk Lore episodes. They're perfectly executed, because I try to sum them up, and then I ADHD tangent onto Mario video games and stuff. But yeah.
I was close to tangenting a couple places there.
Also, just to think about before we move on to our brief break and next topic, one thing that you don't need to do, I have noticed that when I play, I feel immense pressure from the group to have a response that has been planned, and it's not planned. So when you open something and I have to roll, and now there's an encounter, or it is completely random and I don't know, and so now we're going to go off a table. Um, Tell the group, give me a
Mm-hmm.
second. As a human being, I have not prepared 100% of everything as normal. I've prepared about 60 to 70% of the Dungeon Master preparation, which is all I think you really need. Give me a second to look this up and see where we're going, and pick a table or quickly look online, let the players talk,
Mm-hmm.
and then do it. You don't have to have this anxiety because it is a game and you're a person and so are they. They'll chill out. They're waiting eagerly, and it's
Well,
um,
something I love to do in those moments are, like you said, let everyone know, all right, I need a moment to figure this out, but then give them a prompt of encouraging role play in some way. Of, oh, player A, you notice something on player B's pants, or you notice that
that's cool.
they drop the weapon, and then let that role play out while you're figuring everything else out, and then
That is really
when
cool.
the moment's right, jump in with that encounter. And I think that's a perfect set for our next topic
That's
about how to
hilarious.
incorporate randomness into the story and not have it feel so random.
Wow, you're gonna blow my mind in that next topic. But here's a prompt for everyone. While you're looking for the table that you need to choose from in order to get the perfect D20, the perfect 20 options, why don't you roll high and subscribe? There's a
Mm-hmm.
button right over there. Roll high.
This is Rena. Rena rolled low during death saves and didn't get healed by his group. Don't be a Rena. Roll high and subscribe.